You need to ensure that people know what is expected of them in terms of the results, in terms of the direction that they need to take, in terms of the action that needs to take place. Quite often, whenever there is a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation of what is expected of them, it will lead to drastically different results and outcomes. And so when you're having that conversation with this other person, and you're listening and asking insightful questions, it's important that on your part, that you're conveying what is the required expectations, results, and outcomes, and that you are very clear about that. Naturally, if the other person is unclear of the expectations and results and outcomes that they need to achieve, then your job is to be able to explain to them where they have to go and make sure that they get there. And once they have that understanding of the appropriate expectations that have to be met, then one of your jobs as the leader is to enforce the rules and ensure that they take the actions to get to that appropriate expectations. Sometimes people don't know the direction that needs to be taken, or they may have misunderstood, and that has led to a different set of actions and results and outcomes. So before you jump in and be assertive and find fault with the other person, it's actually a good point for you to listen and ask insightful questions and find out what's their current level of understanding in terms of the direction that needs to be taken. It's only when you understand where they're coming from, then can you point out the actual correct direction that they need to take and the discrepancy in between. And once they realize that there is a discrepancy, you can hold them accountable to close that gap and to take whatever necessary actions that's required. So let's look at the possible scenario right now. You're speaking with this other person, could be a peer or a team member, and they are very confident about their explanation with regards to a situation on hand. You realize that as you get deeper into the conversation, that their perspective that they have, the understanding that they have, is not entirely correct. So how do you, as the leader, be assertive and get your point across to them on what's more accurate without being aggressive and without offending them? First, you have to walk into that conversation with the right intention. It's not about trying to find fault and put the blame on the other person, but it's more about the intention of walking in there to help them improve. And when you do offer your alternative perspective and understanding, you got to back it up with some facts and figures. Next, as you're going into the conversation, keep in mind that your likability as a leader is the result of what you do. It's not a goal. So as long as you are walking into that conversation with the intent of helping the other person grow, eventually most people will come around and accept the good of what you've done. Third, keep in mind that as you are speaking with this other person, is their lack of understanding or is the gap in their understanding or perspective due to some constraint in their area of work that you do not know of? And that's why the fourth point about going into that conversation with a focus on listening first, asking insightful questions second, and then being assertive last is so essential, because you got to understand where is the person coming from. And when you listen first and ask insightful questions second, what you're doing is you're getting the necessary information so that you can make the most appropriate decisions and actions to help them. And that's why for number 5, it's really important that you exercise judgment, your emotional intelligence, because every conversation where you have to be assertive is going to be different. Empathy is going to be really useful here because you got to understand how the other person is going to feel if you are being assertive. If you walk in there and be assertive with the right intentions, is the person going to feel good about it? And remember that it's how you say it rather than what you say. Make sure that when you're listening and asking those insightful questions, that you take the opportunity to find out if the other person is aware of the expectations as required of them. Because different expectations will lead to different results. And that is why when you have that conversation, it's really important that you and the other person have a common understanding in terms of the direction that needs to be taken. Because when there is a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of that direction, like I said, you're going to get different results. Once that common understanding has been achieved, then you can hold the other person accountable to close the gap and to resolve the discrepancies. Many leaders have shared with me that of all the traits that I've shared with you, there are 3 traits that really stand out. First, your intention really matters. How you go into that conversation with the right intention can make a world of a difference in terms of the outcome that you want to achieve. Second, it's really important that you go into the conversation with an aim to listen, ask insightful questions, and understand where the other person is coming from. Sometimes the other person really cannot see your point of view, and they need your help to get them to where you want them to be. Third, exercise your judgment, because every conversation where you feel you need to be assertive is going to be different, and so your approach needs to adjust to that. Let me end off with this. When we think about leadership, the mental image that comes to mind is of someone leading from the front. Yet the reality is, much of the time, the leader is guiding from the side or supporting from the back. And the same thing applies to having these assertive conversations. We tend to think that when we need to be assertive, it's about being confrontational, offensive, or even aggressive. The reality is that much of the time, it's really about asking insightful questions, listening, understanding where the person is from, and then gradually bringing them to where you need them to be. When you try to be assertive, what you're trying to do is control. And nobody wants to be controlled. But people are open to being influenced. And so, as a leader, one of the things that you have to do is to influence the other person. If you have gotten value out of this video, make sure you hit that like button. It tells YouTube that you've enjoyed the video so other people can see it as well. And if you have yet to support our channel by subscribing to us, hit the subscribe button. I could really use your support to help the channel grow. And finally, what do you think about this topic? Do share your comments below. I hope what I've shared with you today will help you to successfully answer this question of how to be assertive without being aggressive or offending someone. In any case, my name is Daniel Lee from First Time Leadership. I look forward to speaking with you soon.